Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 169th episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, we got a whole lot to break down today, so before this video gets started, you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. It would go a very long way, and also, this video is sponsored by Underdog. A special thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. If you guys could scan that QR code up in that right corner, you definitely will not regret it. Also, kind of in that right corner, I know y'all see it a little bit. I don't think you get the full entire view of it because it'll probably be blocked by the QR code, but we got a Trae Young Wizards jersey in the back right there, obviously. This is not Wizards latest, but, I had to support my GOAT, man. I never thought in my life I would be owning a Washington Wizards jersey, but here we are. And so I know it kind of doesn't really go with the Hawks flag on the left and the Wizards jersey on the right, but, we got to support our guy. But regardless, that is way off topic, but I figured y'all would just say something about that as soon as you saw it in the video. But yeah, the NBA trade deadline is actually just 2 weeks away. And league-wide activity has been relatively quiet so far. I mean, there is no doubt about it. But there's been no shortage of speculation around the league, and particularly in Atlanta. The Hawks have already made one of the biggest moves of the entire season. Well, really, since the season has started, it is the biggest move. They officially closed the book of the Trae Young era, unfortunately. And this is kind of why it's kind of hanging up in my apartment right now. I don't know how long it'll be here, but regardless. And so, yeah, today's episode is going to focus on three major things. So, we're going to talk about, first of all, why the Hawks are no longer in serious pursuit of Anthony Davis, despite constant rumors and reports that the Hawks were potentially pursuing him. They've been linked for quite some time, and so there's some clarity on that situation that we're going to break down in just a second. And then also in the next segment, we're going to take a look at a recent mock draft, which is a very, very, very intriguing one. It really caught my eye, and that's why we're talking about it, because I couldn't be happier with the outcome of this one. It's potentially franchise-altering stuff for the Atlanta Hawks that could be going down in the summer. And then finally, at the end of today's episode, right before the viewer comment segment, we are going to be previewing tonight's matchup against the Phoenix Suns, because guess what? The Atlanta Hawks are back in action tonight, and so it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be back at home. I of course, am going to be there, so definitely let me know down below in the comments some questions that you may have for Quinn Snyder or any of the players that you potentially would want me to ask. So without further ado, I know that was a long intro. Let's waste no more time and go ahead and jump right into it and start with the Hawks no longer really being in major pursuit of Anthony Davis. As I kind of hinted at in the intro, the Hawks have already played a central role in this trade season. They got things started, and nothing has really followed it. And I thought it would. I thought, the Trae Young trade would be the thing that kind of kicked off trade season. It really hasn't. Like, teams haven't been super active. The Hawks are the only team now who have completed a trade so far this season. They sent Trae Young to the Washington Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Nothing else, no picks attached or anything of that nature. That move officially signaled a new direction for the franchise. Young had been the face of the organization for years, but the front office clearly felt like it was time to pivot. In return, Atlanta gained some veteran leadership, shooting, flexibility, and perhaps most importantly, and this is why it's relating to this segment that I'm talking about, they have options. They have plenty of ways they could go now, because after that blockbuster deal, it doesn't appear the Hawks are done in any sense. They're far from done in positioning themselves for not only this season but for the future. Atlanta currently holds over $70 million in expiring contracts, plus some young players, and with upside, and also future draft assets. If we're talking about teams who could put together a great trade package for a star or really anyone that came available, the Hawks are among those top teams. I mean, there is no doubt about it, and not a second thought in my mind that the Hawks wouldn't be at the forefront in terms of those teams who could potentially put together a very solid offer for anyone who came available in the league. And so, yeah, if the front office wanted to be aggressive, they could. And so because of that flexibility and because of being rumored in all of these different things, the Hawks have frequently been mentioned as a potential suitor for many stars who have become available in trades, particularly Anthony Davis. This is the guy who has been, at the forefront of Hawks news and Hawks discussions over the past month, because like things really started to heat up. I always said on this channel, when there's smoke, there's fire. There was a lot of smoke regarding Anthony Davis to the Hawks for whatever reason. I was always very confused by their interest, but I was kind of entertaining it a little bit because like if it kind of made sense on paper, if we don't look at contract or injury history, I liked the fit on paper, but there's a whole lot more to it when you're making a deal for an NBA star who's making that much money. Dallas continues to explore the options surrounding their star big man, and yeah, like Atlanta made sense originally because Davis would immediately address their most glaring weakness, which is kind of interior defense and rim protection and rebounding, overall defensive presence as well. Like Davis is no longer the defender that he was, but he is still very much serviceable as a defensive presence down low. And now, however, those conversations and why we're talking about this, they have appeared to cool significantly. According to a very credible NBA insider, Jake Fisher, the Hawks are no longer involved in serious trade discussions for Davis. Fisher recently stated, he said, it's a struggle, frankly, to find any active trade scenarios involving Davis at the minute. He continued, and he said, in recent days, both the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors, both teams that were previously described as the most prevalent Davis suitors, have been signaling that they are no longer involved in significant trade talks with the Mavericks. So, yeah, talk about cooling down. I mean, it's taking a complete 180. Not that things are really heading right in the right direction, like too quickly, like negotiations. It really does seem like the Hawks and Mavericks from start to finish of these negotiations just have been so far off in terms of what they potentially want in a deal, which has kind of just doomed that partnership from the start. And so the major factor in that shift and the literally the direct cause really of the Hawks kind of being like, okay, let's stop talking to the Mavericks about Davis is because of his health, because just last week it was announced that the 32-year-old will be sidelined for at least 6 weeks due to ligament damage in his left hand. And he's wearing a sling for ligament damage in his hand, so I don't know if that's even necessary, but it's Anthony Davis. He may be made of glass. And so yeah, a player with long and well documented injury history, the timeline for return, it raises significant red flags about when maybe he'll be potentially available to return. And so like you don't want to take any sort of risk and give up future assets or picks or young players or anything related to that, like in exchange for a guy like Davis, especially for a team that really this season is in the middle of a retooling phase. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. And so yeah, Davis would undoubtedly raise Atlanta's ceiling in the short term, and it does bring up some issues long term. The downside is enormous. If injuries persist, which he has shown no reason for us to believe that injuries will not persist, the Hawks could find themselves locked into an expensive core that limits flexibility moving forward. And one thing that Onzi Saleh has preached since arriving in Atlanta and becoming our lead decision maker is optionality. So this is not a move that sounds anything like what Onzi would do, and that's why I was confused at the beginning, and I'm definitely less confused now that we have some clarity that the Hawks are not going to be super aggressive in terms of bringing him in. At this stage, it appears the Hawks are not really being super aggressive. They're going to explore upgrades before the deadline. There's no doubt about it. I expect like probably 2 or 3 more moves before the February 5th deadline, but Anthony Davis is almost 100% not happening, and that may be for the best. So even after the win in Memphis a couple nights ago, we got to bring it back to like on the court stuff, and well, this whole segment isn't even really about like stuff that had happened particularly on the court, but the Hawks did come off of a win. Like we broke down yesterday the very important win against the Memphis Grizzlies, one that was very much needed, and so even after that, the Hawks, if we're looking at them on the season, they are 21-25. They're still 4 games under 500. They are still far behind where they need to be or where they were expected to be going into the season, especially from people like us on this channel that have been hyping these guys up for most of the season. It is still over halfway through the season been very, very disappointing. I mean, they're walking a fine line between competitiveness and long-term planning, and that never really results in too much productivity on the court, because it's kind of some distractions organizationally, and then also just like you have a bit of a odd lineup. You have different combinations. You have a weird mix of veterans and young players, just not meshing in the greatest way. But maybe that win against Memphis can start a win streak, and then we can disregard everything that was just said. And so yeah, the Hawks, are projected to have significant cap space in the offseason. And thanks to the New Orleans Pelicans, as we all know, they also own a potentially very, very high lottery pick. So that combination gives Atlanta a rare opportunity to reshape their future in a meaningful way this summer. It's going to be a big summer. Not to fully, and we're just a little over halfway through the season, so we do slowly got to start talking about the summer a little bit more. And so this, obviously, I'm not going to be talking about the draft every day, but every now and then I'm definitely going to want to highlight some prospects. And then obviously once the summer begins, which we still got a lot of time before, I'll be every single day I'll be giving you guys new names and new people to keep up with and different things to track. I got you guys covered. But there is some speculation already regarding who Atlanta potentially would want to bring in. And in the latest mock draft from Bleacher Report's Jonathan Wasserman, the Hawks are projected to make two highly intriguing selections. As we all know, we have 2 first-round picks because we have the swap with the Spurs, and then we also have the worst of the Pelicans-Bucks. We know the Pelicans-Bucks ones. Not a lot of people know that we have that swap with the Spurs, so we'll probably get a decently, kind of like a mid to late first-round selection as well as the early pick. So definitely in a great position there in terms of the draft. So in this mock draft by Wasserman, and this is my guy, this guy that I'm about to tell you guys. This is obviously my number 1 overall pick. If the Hawks land number 1, this is the guy on January 22nd or 23rd, which was when y'all will be seeing this. This is the guy I would select, and clearly Wasserman agreed. He had Atlanta selecting Darren Peterson out of Kansas, the 6'6", 205-pound guard who is just 18 years old and is looking like one of the best scoring prospects ever. He said his pro comparison was Anthony Edwards, and that's definitely a bold opinion, but the production backs it up. I've seen even more ridiculous comparisons for Peterson. I've seen people call him Kobe. I've seen people say he's the best scoring prospect ever. And honestly, if you watch him on the floor, when he's actually on the floor, this guy, it's so easy for him. I don't know if I've ever seen a score, and I've watched just a few Kansas games this season, but just in the limited amount of time that I have seen him play, I haven't seen a scorer in college, especially being a freshman, just get to wherever he wants so easily. He could probably, if you put him in the NBA right now, he could probably average 18. An efficient 18 in the NBA right now. And that's not even me being ridiculous. And Wasserman also notes that Peterson's case as a top overall pick has strengthened after that recent dominant performance over Baylor. That really kind of separated him from the rest of the pack. He scored 26 points on just 13 shots, just peak efficiency. His scoring versatility has seriously been eye-opening, showcasing elite shot creation, fluid drives, advanced footwork, and off-ball movement. This guy has everything you want in a guard. He's also great on the defensive end. It's a great player. It's hard to find any flaw in his game other than his durability, which has been the only concern. And statistically, Peterson has been remarkable all season. He has scored nearly 200 points in just 241 minutes over the course of the season, shooting over 50% from the field and better than 40% from 3 and more than 83% from the free throw line. He is getting really close to that 50-40-90 as a freshman in college on one of the biggest stages, at Kansas, where basketball is certainly, at its highest there, in terms of college basketball. He's remarkable, and he's elite. He's efficient, and he's everything you want in a potential number 1 overall pick. And like I said, his biggest concern is durability. He's dealt with leg injuries all season, and teams are going to monitor that closely. Teams won't make a false judgment at number 1 overall. If there's too much concern about him moving forward with that leg injury or any other injuries, then he won't be selected 1. But when he's healthy, his ceiling is undeniably franchise-altering, and the Hawks cannot miss out on an opportunity to select a guy like this. With Trae Young gone, the Hawks obviously need a new offensive engine heading into the new era, and Peterson fits that profile perfectly. He's my guy. He's my number 1 overall pick, and Jonathan Wasserman agreed, and so that's obviously why I had to talk about this. Now, on kind of the flip side, and not the most exciting pick, talking about the 16th overall pick, but if the Hawks landed the 16th pick from that swap with the Spurs, I would be ecstatic because it would be a very good outcome. And so with this pick, Wasserman has Atlanta selecting Patrick Gongba the second, a center from Duke. And you know what? Big men out of Duke are normally pretty safe. So do I even need to say anymore? They have a very much proven track record. And this guy he fits the mold of a center that the Hawks would want. He's 6'11", he's 250 pounds. He just offers a very different type of value than you would see in a traditional, late lottery first round pick. his appeal isn't anything flashy. He's not much of a elite scorer, but the thing is, he has the instincts of a pro. He has great physicality. He's a versatile guy who plays a little bit quicker than he probably should, and he's shown strong touch around the basket, solid rim protection, and perhaps most intriguingly, advanced passing ability for a big man. He's that real connective piece for the Duke Blue Devils that has really aided a lot of their success this season. And if Atlanta were to land him at 16, I think it would be a steal. He would project as kind of a developmental piece who could complement Onyeka Okongwu nicely. He's a guy who potentially could play next to him and also, just kind of stagger their minutes at the 5 if that is something that they would choose to do. But then you're looking at a potential, takeover in the starting lineup for him. So that could be very interesting. But Atlanta desperately needs size and interior defense, and this guy's long-term upside makes him seriously a sensible investment. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at Hawks versus Suns and selecting Jalen Johnson for higher than 10.5 rebounds and Dylan Brooks for higher than 17.5 points. Download the app today and use promo code BasketballFan to secure $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BasketballFan. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
So now we talked about the draft and we talked about, Anthony Davis, like trade rumors and everything, but let's not forget, and I always say this, but let's not forget that the Hawks are playing right now. They're in the midst of a season. I know it's been a tough season. It's been fun to cover, but it has been a tough season. Just from a pure fan perspective. But they have a real chance to kind of build on a little bit of momentum, which would be a great thing, which would give us a lot of things even more things to talk about than we already have to talk about. I mean, it's great stuff, and hopefully it can be great stuff. But we got to turn our attention back to the present because the Atlanta Hawks are back tonight at home at State Farm Arena against the Phoenix Suns. The tough Phoenix Suns team with Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks, the team that has mostly been surprising to a lot of people, a lot of casuals this season. They didn't expect the Suns to be good, but not me. I expected them to be good. I know I said at the beginning of the season, I forgot what video it was. I'll have to go and find that. But I know I made the bold opinion that the Suns would be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference, I think, and make the playoffs. A lot of people were down on them because they traded away KD, but I really liked how they improved around the margins. I loved their draft class. I loved when I loved who they got for Kevin Durant. I think that was a very valuable package, and I honestly, I loved everything they did this offseason, kind of rebuilding from whatever that last era for them was. And so, yeah, I was high on the Suns, and this is a team that is clearly kind of living up to my expectations so far this season. And so the Suns are looking to finish their 6-game East Coast road trip on a high note. They have been on the road, and so this is a great chance for the Hawks to take advantage because while we were not at home last game, we weren't too far from home. We were in Memphis. That's not too far away. And then the game before that, we were at home. So now they probably have been back home for a couple days now. They should have the rest advantage. They will have the travel advantage. But we know the Hawks, for some reason, don't know how to play at home. I don't know what it is. They are not good at home, honestly. And I will never understand that. Maybe this can be a thing of the past, and maybe with this win, picking up our second straight win against the Phoenix Suns, that can kind of flip the script on not winning at home, and maybe we can build a little bit of a trend of finally being able to pick up victories in our home arena in front of our home fans that are still passionate and loud despite us being 4 games under 500. I don't know, but looking at the Suns, they have won 3 straight games, so this is going to be a tough matchup. This is a matchup. This is an opportunity for the Hawks to show off their resiliency and show that their identity has shifted and show that they have learned off of most of their mistakes. The last game Phoenix is coming off of of is that 116-110 victory over the tough Philadelphia 76ers of the Eastern Conference on Tuesday. That win also marked the return of Jalen Green. So Jalen Green is back. He missed a large chunk of the season. He was sidelined since early November with that right hamstring injury. So he just adds a huge scoring punch and to a lineup that honestly at times does need it. And so that's going to be another person that Dyson Daniels is going to have to lock up. It's going to be tough, but I still think this is a winnable game. Jalen Green came off the bench actually in his return game, which is not surprising at all because of the amount of time that he missed. And it was actually the first time in his career. And he scored 12 points in 20 minutes. While his minutes remain monitored, he's expected to return to the starting lineup soon and potentially as early as tonight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Green, was back in the starting lineup. I mean, he clearly looked pretty comfortable out there and he provided a great scoring spark for them. So maybe they'll like his role on the bench better. Maybe they won't. I don't really know. And so Suns head coach Jordan Ott emphasized the team's resilience, saying, even when it doesn't feel great, we found ways to win. We're implementing a big piece on the fly here, and we'll learn from that. And Green echoed that sentiment, noting how rejuvenated he feels after the long absence. This is a reason for the Hawks to be a little bit nervous, but if these guard defenders are going to play as advertised and how they have played for a good portion of the year, then I shouldn't be too worried, and you guys shouldn't be too worried. Phoenix's offense is obviously anchored by none other than Devin Booker, who is a very proven scorer in the league. He's averaging 25 points per game this season and is coming off of a 27-point performance against the Philadelphia 76ers. Alongside Green and Dillon Brooks, who is that tenacious defender who Atlanta Hawks fans know good and well. The Suns believe they have one of the league's most dangerous scoring trios, and they might be right. Atlanta, meanwhile, is coming off of a much needed 124-122 win over the Memphis Grizzlies, which actually snapped a 4-game losing streak. It really ended a very tough portion of the season, and so hopefully they can build off of that. Jalen Johnson, during that 4-game losing streak, he wasn't very good. But he's slowly been getting back into form. The game before last, he had 28 points, and then in this last game, he had like 34, I think. And so this guy, it was 32 and 15, I believe. And so this guy is looking like Jalen Johnson again. This guy is looking like the guy who's having the real breakout season and likely going to be making his first All-Star appearance in just about like a month. All-Star break is not that far away. But yeah, in this last game, he had 32 and 15 and 8 assists, just continuing an incredible season. And so, if the Hawks are going to be able to pick up a big win against a tough Western Conference opponent, they're going to need their superstar, the new face of the franchise, to have a big night. I mean, there's no other way around it. Veteran guard CJ McCollum, who Hawks fans have been frustrated with early into his Hawks career, he's been starting to really kind of fit into his role and kind of understand his role more and definitely be off the ball a little more, kind of decrease his usage. All of that stuff is going to be very beneficial for Atlanta's core and also for his role in Atlanta moving forward. He had a rare turnover in crunch time, but right after that, he didn't let that turnover judge him or define what that night was going to be for him, because he immediately stole the ball back and set up a Nickeil Alexander-Walker 3 that pushed the lead to 5 and ended up really kind of sealing the victory for the Hawks. Head coach Quinn Snyder, after the game, he praised the sequence, saying that it was a winning play, and he highlighted McCollum's leadership and that, he just continues to be resilient despite a lot of the outside noise and despite, making a mistake on the court. I mean, that's what a veteran does. When you make a mistake on the floor, you don't hang your head, you don't think about it for too long, you just immediately go and you make up for it. And that's what McCollum did. And so the Hawks are in a weird spot right now because they continue to juggle lineups, due to injuries to a lot of their guys. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis and Zachary Rhys-Shai have all been out for some time, and so they're going to miss probably another week or so at least. And so the Hawks have on the fly been making some adjustments to their starting lineup. And actually, Corey Kispert, the newly acquired Hawk, has stepped into the starting lineup amid Vit Krejci's shooting slump. The Hawks, for a lot of the time that Rhys-Shai was out, were immediately opting to start Vit Krejci, and so Vit really started to struggle when he was in the starting lineup. Unfortunately, we hate to see it because we love Vit, but he'll get it back together. But he even started to last game. But Kispert has been in that starting lineup. And the funny thing is, Kispert has also kind of been in a shooting slump. He hasn't shot the ball well since coming to Atlanta. Of course, man. Of course. Like this career 40% three-point shooter is doing great and watching. It comes to Atlanta and all of a sudden just forgets how to shoot. I don't know. I'm overreacting. I mean, he's going to be great. I mean, he's going to be just fine. And it's going to take him some time to adjust. But like little things like that just build up and they get a little bit frustrating. And so for the Hawks and the Suns, this is actually the second meeting between them this season. That first game was an intense one. The Hawks were down by a whole lot of points and they came back. And it was during that like 6-game win streak earlier in the season where the Hawks had all the momentum in the world. It was like when Trae Young's injury was still a little fresh. I mean, that was a while ago. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember it if you've been consistently watching this channel and also keeping up with the Hawks. And so the Hawks won that game, though, and they'll look to replicate that result tonight. It would be very, very huge if they could. So now moving on to the fourth and final segment, our viewer comment segment. I've loved implementing the viewer comment segment just so I can give you guys a little bit of a voice. Definitely, building the community here at Hawks Latest. Hawks, whether they're struggling or playing well, it's always good to just kind of connect with the people who are all sharing one common thing, which is watching the Hawks and keeping up with the Hawks. Clearly if you're tuning in to this channel, it means you care a lot about the Hawks. And so giving you a chance to kind of express your opinions and then for me to react to it, I love it a lot. And so we're going to react to two today, two that I found pretty interesting from yesterday's video. And I'll start with @Jeremiah N0130CLY. Said, JJ hasn't played a full season in a while. I wonder, did he hit a wall? He hasn't played a lot of basketball in recent years. And I mean, yeah, that's true. And this is why I give Jalen a lot of grace when it comes to, I should give him more grace, honestly. I got to be better at that. But everyone should give him a lot of grace because, yes, like, knock on wood, Jalen has been healthy so far this season. He's been one of our more durable players. And that's not something I necessarily expected going into the season. But, if he can continue to keep this up, this is going to be huge for him. And so, the back half of the season, it's going to probably start to, at times, like Jalen is going to go through rough stretches like this because, no, it's true that he is not used to playing this much. I mean, there's no other way around it. He didn't play much at Duke. He got hurt and he opted out for the rest of the season to focus on the NBA draft, which actively hurt his draft stock. And then, like in the NBA, he hasn't been able to play a full season. I mean, you're exactly right. So, I really, as Hawks fans, we've got to be patient with Jalen. I mean, we have got to just let him grow as a player, let him learn to blossom in this new role. But yeah, we're going to have to be patient with him because, it's going to get rough at times because, yes, he has not played a lot of basketball in recent years. And so hopefully, like, this season, he can continue on the pace that he's at. If he continues at this pace, we'll probably end up playing like 70 games or so, which would be just absolutely remarkable and a great sign for a young player who is stepping up as the face of the franchise. So I appreciate the comment. And then next, @Jamal the Creative said, it's time to trade Onyeka Okongwu. As a big, we need a defensive anchor, and OO scoring is irrelevant if you can't stop anybody. I'd rather see Mo Gay or Christian Koloko start for the rest of the season and have OO come off the bench. One thing I will tell you in response to this, they would never start Christian Koloko over Onyeka Okongwu when both are healthy. That would never happen the rest of the season. And, I mean, and just, obviously, like, I understand why you would want that. And I honestly, in times like, yes, like the idea of that, like, would probably be beneficial, but the Hawks would never do that for a guy who has been with the organization for like 5-6 years now. And so also Mo Gay definitely doesn't have the physical makeup to be a starting center. Like, and that's the thing. The Hawks didn't plan on Mo Gay starting at center or even playing a lot of backup center minutes going into the season. They've always viewed him as specifically a forward, and that's it. But, injuries and also Asa Newell not being very good at the center position has kind of forced him to play Mo in that center role more. And I think in various instances, like, you can make the argument that Mo is beneficial at the 5 next to whatever certain players who are also in that lineup. But, more often than not, that's not an ideal scenario that you want. And then so they ended up picking up Christian Koloko. And out of one game, I really liked what we saw out of him. But I don't want to overreact and say, like, oh, Christian Koloko needs to be this nightly rotational big. Because, history shows that, he hasn't been a super reliable rotational big. Like, if we're judging off of things that have been said from both Lakers fans and Memphis Grizzlies fans. He's young, though. He's got a lot of time. And so does Onyeka Okongwu. Because no, he is not a defensive anchor, but and you said like his scoring's irrelevant if you can't stop anybody. But I feel like as soon as we go back to just having a traditional defensive-minded center, a lot of people are gonna miss what Onyeka does offensively because not a lot of centers can create at the top of the key like Onyeka does. Not a lot of centers can identify mismatches, and guys coming off of screens and hit them in the right stride and open up a open lay for them. Like it's a number of little things that Onyeka does on the offensive end that makes him special. And yeah, his shortcomings as a defender are extremely frustrating. And so that's why we've kind of hoped that Jalen wouldn't necessarily regress like he has on the defensive end, because like he used to be able to cancel him out. But yeah, it has been really prevalent this season. So I understand your frustrations, but I wouldn't go as far to say I would rather see Moge or Koloko start at the center rather than Onyeka Okongwu, just because, as the reasons as I stated. So I appreciate the comment. That is very interesting. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments, what are your thoughts on the Hawks essentially pulling out of the Anthony Davis trade talks? They're not out of it completely yet, but it is looking like almost a sure thing that he will not be a Hawk by the deadline. What are your thoughts on that recent mock draft by Jonathan Wasserman, bringing Darren Peterson and also Duke's center home? I think both will be great pickups. I think that's kind of a dream scenario for the Hawks in June, which isn't far away, but it isn't, super close. So, we definitely got some time before that to kind of evaluate different prospects. But Peterson's my guy if we get the number 1 overall pick. Let me know down below in the comments, would you pick, if you had the number 1 pick right at this day, would you pick Darren Peterson, AJ Debonsa, or Cameron Boozer at number 1? Let me know, because it's very interesting and it's very close, but right now I would say Peterson. Also, let me know down below, what do you guys think about the game tonight? Do you think the Hawks can pick up another important victory against a tough Western Conference opponent and sweep the season series against the Phoenix Suns? That would be great. That would be an unexpected outcome. I would be very pleasantly surprised by it. Let me know that all down below in the comments, but once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.